Hello and welcome back to another video. It seems like ages since I've sat down and recorded one, but realistically it's only been just over a week and a half. I've been away for the past week and these last few days I've been quite ill, and I was going to release a video when I was away, but it was pretty bad, so I decided to scrap it instead. Anyway, now that I'm back, I will be trying to upload regularly again. However, there will be some changes to my Learning Large Format series. This is because I am unable to reliably develop my black and white film at uni since the processing machines are broken. So I'll most likely not be uploading once a week, but whenever I really have any images to show you. But don't worry, I am still regularly using my 4x5 camera, it's just that I'm not making videos about it as often because I am just physically unable to. So for my first video back, I feel like I need to upload something interesting. And with me recently saying that I want to sell my Pentax and get a Mamiya RZ67 or an RB67, then it only makes sense to do a video about one of those. For my 2 years at college, I primarily used a Mamiya RZ67, and it is probably my favourite camera ever made. Though instead of buying a Mamiya RZ67, even though it's my favourite camera, I decided to try a few different medium format film cameras to see what I fancy. And unsurprisingly, it has led me back to the Mamiya RZ67. I have used an RZ67 only 3 times since leaving college. The first time was me showing my friend Harry the camera, the second time was me taking Simon's portrait when I was doing my People and Passions project, and the third time was shooting Steve Heller's portrait for doing my Hidden Cornwall project. So I haven't really had any chance to just mess around with the camera. I've had these images in mind that I want to create and I've got a strict deadline for it. But a few days ago I decided that I want to take out the camera and just get some photos for fun. So I booked out a Mamiya RZ67 and the 90mm f3.5. I was going to book out a 110mm 2.8 since that's the lens that I used all throughout college, but I wanted to try out the 90mm 3.5 just in case I do get a Mamiya RB67 and I'm not able to have the 110mm. So I booked out the camera for a few hours and me and Jen tried to find somewhere interesting to shoot. We realised that most places were boring and we were spending more time actually looking for a place than shooting, so we decided to go with Flushing. Flushing is this little town just across the water from Falmouth. It's a really nice place, everyone is super friendly and the area is really picturesque. It was also only a short drive from here to the university, so I actually had quite a while to shoot. Anyway, we arrived in Flushing. Jen was using my Canon Model 7, so I loaded that up for her, and then shortly after that I loaded the Mamiya RZ67. Since I can't develop black and white film at the moment, I use Kodak Gold, and most of the time when I use Kodak Gold, I get pretty lackluster results, so I wasn't really expecting any great images this time. But to be honest, I was just super happy to be able to use this camera again. My first photo was this portrait of Jen. To start off, I wanted to get a close-up portrait, but the composition just wasn't it. So instead of a close-up one, I got this one of her, and I really like it. The colours in this image are amazing, and it's completely different to what I usually get from Kodak Gold. For this second image, me and Jen decided to take some portraits of each other, and when I was focusing, I was saying to Jen how amazing this image is going to be. Looking through the ground glass of a medium format camera is amazing, and everyone should experience it at least once in their lives. It's like looking at a photo that has come to life. It's such a weird experience. But anyway, I'm super happy with this image. The colours are great, the depth of field is amazing, and that unique waist level viewfinder perspective is something that I love about this camera, or really just any waist level viewfinder camera in general. My next few photos were pretty basic. We just walked around Flushing getting photos of buildings, and I got 2 close-up portraits of Jen. But I'm really not happy with these portraits. I think the low angle isn't very good for these type of portraits, and it's something that I should have avoided since I used to avoid it quite often when I was previously shooting with the Mamiya RZ67 in college. But for some reason I just wanted to try it, completely forgetting that most of the time it doesn't look very good. After walking up this hill, we found this park. It was the perfect place to take portraits since it was quite secluded and it was also high up enough that the light wasn't getting affected by any buildings nearby. I have to admit though, this wasn't the day for good lighting. It was a super overcast day, and every now and again the sun would break through the clouds and light up everywhere in super harsh lighting. So I was actually pretty worried with how these photos of this day would turn out, but through the ground glass they looked great. Anyway, as I was saying, me and Jen started taking some portraits in this park. I started off with 2 full body portraits of Jen, and to be honest, this is not the lens to do so. To get full body portraits, I should be using something like the 210 2.8 instead of the 90mm f3.5. One good thing I have to say though is look how nice these colours are in the photos. Maybe I should just be shooting Kodak Gold in overcast weather all the time, since that makes it look somewhat normal. I also actually took another full body portrait of Jen since I thought I messed up my exposure on one of them, but as you can see there was no need since it just looks a lot better in the first one. I've actually only ever had my portrait taken on a Mamiya RZ67 once before, and it was shortly after I shaved off my entire beard, so I looked really weird, and it's a photo that I don't ever want to see the light of day. So now that I have my beard back, I wanted a portrait of me on the RZ67 that didn't make me want to pour bleach in my eyes. So I gave Jen a quick rundown of how the camera works. She set up the shot, took the photo, and to be fair, it's not that bad. I do look a little bit grumpy though. Definitely a lot better than the last portrait I had taken on the RZ67. There were a few benches that were set up in this park that were dedicated to a few people, and I'm not even kidding, one of these benches was the comfiest bench I've ever sat on. Honestly, it felt like I was just sat on a sofa. It was dedicated to someone called Linda, so like, cheers for the bench, Linda. We then took some portraits on this bench, and I took a portrait of the bench itself since it was quite a nice scene. I'm pretty happy with the portraits that I've taken on this bench. I got a mixture of closer shots and full body ones, so I had a bit of variety. I think the photo of Jen with her hat off is my favourite out of these few, and it reminds me of the photos that I used to take on the Mamiya RZ67 when I was in college. To finish off the shoot, we got some closer up portraits. Two of them, Jen had her eyes closed, and they're okay, they're not my favourite, and then one we got of her lying down on the bench, which I'm pretty happy with. Overall, I'm happy with the photos, and I think the 90mm lens is great. However, throughout this shoot, I noticed a few things about the RZ that seemed just a bit weird, including the focusing. Once I gave it back to the photography stores at my university, I mentioned it to them, and 2 days ago I went back in to develop my film, and they told me that the camera was having quite a few issues. The focusing issue was because of like some broken gears or something along those lines, and then also the camera was set permanently to the mechanical mode where it shoots everything at 1/400th of a second. So basically someone's broke the camera and not told them, and they hadn't noticed since it's such a minute thing. So yeah, all of these photos were taken at 1/400th of a second, but luckily it was quite a bright day and I was shooting wide open most of the time, so it actually didn't affect me since I was shooting at 1/400th of a second anyway. But there are two photos that I did stop down for, and those photos are completely unusable. So yeah, it just sucks, and that's why there's only 18 photos instead of 20 to show you. Anyway, the camera has now been sent off for repairs. The people at the photography stores also told me that if I were to get an RB67 or an RZ67, definitely go for the RB since they don't see nearly as many issues with those cameras as they do with the RZ67s. And also, since it's all mechanical, it's a lot easier to fix them than, like, you know, if some electronics go wrong in an RZ67. Also, they're just a lot cheaper. My favourite photos from this shoot are the ones where Jen is sat on the steps, the one where she's holding her camera, the one where she's sat on the bench where she's kicking her legs out, and finally the close-up of her with her hat off. The last photo of her laying down on the bench is also pretty nice. I do actually really like that one. I enjoyed the shoot and I like the photos, but I am definitely leaning more towards the RB67 and the 90mm f3.8 because using the 90mm f3.5 on the RZ was actually a really enjoyable experience, and I can't imagine there is like any difference at all between those two lenses. It's also just way cheaper than RZ67, and it's a bit more reliable considering that an electronic could go wrong in an RZ67 and that's it done for really, unless you buy another one. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.